NCTV45 Newcastle, The Train.
And I do want to bring up, I brought this up to a city councilman, and it got shot down. And then a lot of times I'll say something, then about 3 weeks later it comes up in an article. I asked about recruiting people to the city. Mm-hmm. Good, middle-income people. Now, they had an article in the Wall Street Journal concerning this, and I asked a city councilman to explore that. Mm-hmm. And they shot it down. They said,
well, you have to explore all options, and I addressed that Tuesday night. And here's what I addressed. I went out and I said this, and this information came from the Real Estate Association. And I've been informed that in the last 10 years, our property values in many of our homes have gone down 40%. So if you take a look at that and you think about that figure, what's going to happen is that pretty soon the taxes on your home is going to be more than your home is valued at. That's a major issue. But what our plan is very simple. If you go through history, you find out that the renovations and how to produce revenue is through construction. There are 341 vacant lots in our community. I believe that we should be building small homes on these vacant lots. I love these older homes that we have, especially here on the North Hill in the historical area. However, they're obsolete. Families are smaller today. You know, those homes were conducive at the time for large extended families. We don't have large extended families for the most part. We have small families. We have, you know, maybe a single mother or a nuclear family with a mother, father, and 1 or 2 kids. So smaller homes is the way to go. The second problem we have is that we have a tax abatement program on all the construction in 5 years. That actually exceeds the extension that we have on Act 47. The Act 47 is a 3-year program. If you have a 5-year abatement program on all construction, they're not paying taxes for 5 years. Yet your Act 47 extension is only 3 years. Does that make any sense? That makes zero sense to me. So your abatement program must be torn down. It must be lowered to 3 years. This way, what occurs then is you start producing revenue. If you start building, and believe me, there are contractors and builders, and there are real estate developers who want to do this. This isn't only my idea. It's been presented to me over and over again. It's how you produce revenue. Here's another problem that we have. We have businesses fleeing this community. And again, I said this the other night. You have business fleeing this community. So you have to scratch your head and you have to think, okay, why are they fleeing? The next business that's leaving is the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation. They're leaving. They're taking 25 jobs and they're going to Shenango. Okay, so how does this happen? Why does this happen? Well, a lot of the businesses leave because our business privilege tax is higher than the surrounding townships. So these people who are coming to Newcastle are paying a higher rate of taxation than they would in Shenango, Neshannock, Laurel, wherever they go. So in order for us to compete, we have to lower that. I mean, those are solutions that I think are workable, and I think they would be beneficial to us. Now, again, I'm not naive. I certainly understand that this is a long process, but the process has to begin. It has to start. You need a mayor up there that's going to be visible, that's going to be forceful, that's going to be pushing these things through.
Yes, ma'am. I always encourage people to vote yes on home rule, but you know, of course, the rumor is out there that if it's voted no, that we go into receivership, and I recognize that's way after the exit plan, but I think maybe you need to describe what actual receivership is.
Well, first of all, you are right. That would not be immediate. You still have 3 more years of Act 47 before that decision would be made. But I think that that would go to a way if home rule is voted down, and we know you don't have that ability, and you probably don't have an appetite to increase your real estate tax 5 mils over that period of time, I don't think the likelihood of being able to successfully exit Act 47 at the end of that 3 years is looking very good. So what would happen then in 2022, we as the coordinators would make a recommendation to the state. Either something has happened, Newcastle is prepared, they're in a great financial condition, things look good over the next few years that they can exit, or if not, propose to the state that they appoint a receiver. And as I said, a receiver comes in and takes control. The mayor, city council, they lose control. The receiver will be calling all the shots. Think of it as a form of bankruptcy. Just like if you know people have been in bankruptcy, you've been around bankruptcies, trustee comes in, the trustee decides when you're going to spend money, how you're going to spend money, when you're not going to spend money. That's what a receiver will do. The receiver will run Newcastle, and he or she will be making all the shots, calling all the shots. Yes, sir.
Hey, Joel, a few things. First of all, when you talked about home rule, and you talked about the earned income tax, but you're also including the business privilege tax and the mercantile tax as well, is that correct?
We're only focusing on the EIT.
I know that, but it involves all three taxes, the business privilege tax, the mercantile tax, and also the earned income tax as well, because that's at a higher rate as well.
It could be.
Okay, it could be. Second question is, and I'm an advocate for home rule passage. Second thing is that under home rule, we do tax our under the earned income tax, we do tax our residents, but you cannot tax our non-residents, correct, under home rule?
Under home rule, that is correct. You
Okay,
have
so
that
then-
under Act 47 ability, and
Yeah,
we're
we
doing
can
that.
under Act 47, but under home rule, we cannot.
You cannot tax commuters, I'll call them, under the third class. So if you didn't have Act 47, you couldn't, and you're right, you could not do it under home rule.
Under home rule, you can't do it. So then, I believe the mayor said that we would lose, I believe the mayor said that we would lose approximately $800,000. Is that correct, Mayor?
No, it's more than that.
It's more than that? It is?
I mean, right now, you get.
Under home rule, if we can't tax non-residents, what's the price that we would lose?
Oh, you mean you mean losing the commuter tax that you have now?
You would tax the commute, you would not be permitted to tax the commuters.
Correct.
Okay, so.
I don't know what that number is that you get solely from the commuter EIT. Stephanie, do you happen to know?
I want to say it's probably about $3 million, because I think it's 2 on the one side that would draw
Right?
and 3 on the other. So I think the end number was between 4 and 5 million.
So you're still losing, under home rule, you're still losing X amount of dollars unless you raise the tax on your residents.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Now, obviously, this entire position is moot if we generate revenue by the time 2022 comes in, correct?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by moot.
Why would we need anything under home rule, or why would we go into receivership if we generate revenue, if the city generates revenue by 2022?
If the city can find its way to a better fiscal state by 2022, and if that's through increased business, increased EIT tax, whatever it is, there's not much belt tightening left to do, obviously, but if you can find a way, and we just don't look at 2022, we look for the
Past that.
Past that. I mean, it's
Absolutely.
got to be. It's not going to be 2023. You're in bad shape again. Otherwise, you don't get out of Act 47. Well, you do, but you probably go into receivership. So it's going to look past that. And on the horizon, does it look like you're right? If the city at 2022 is in a good
Generates
financial
revenue.
state, then what we as the coordinators would say is you're in a good shape. You're in a good enough shape to exit without receivership, and you'd be on your own.
Okay, another scenario.
All right.
Home rule fails. Okay, let's assume home rule fails.
All right.
What prevents, now I know that if your property tax is at the highest rate, and I'm no advocate of raising property taxes, everybody knows that, we're not gonna do that, because then you'll have everybody will leave the city, okay? But if you needed to raise the property tax, you would petition the court of common pleas. The city has the right to do that. If it's at a high rate, if it's the highest rate, and you still wanted to raise the property tax under your third-class officer in charter, you can petition the court to raise your property tax. Was that
You have
correct?
the ability, City council has the ability to raise the property tax now.
Yeah, I know, but if it goes to a certain height, if it goes to a certain length, certain millage, then you have to petition the court in order to raise it above that millage.
All right, so what's
Okay.
Now, would you promote the idea of stores being open in the city?
Well, of course, who wouldn't? I mean, every candidate would say that. I mean, who wouldn't? But the thing that
Well, we
don't
have
do,
a situation where it wasn't promoted.
well, here's what I think, what I believe that we need to do as a city. The city needs to market Newcastle better. Now, let me give you some examples. We have a riverway that other communities would absolutely positively market. We haven't done it, or we haven't done it successfully or aggressively. The second thing, we have a number of businesses that are perfectly set up for office incubators. The Old Days Inn,
Right,
even Penpower, the old Penpower.
right.
And the most essential thing that I cannot get over is the Old Days Inn. You have free parking. You have free
Yeah.
parking. You know, I stood up in front of Eaton Park and said that if I was the mayor, I would be marketing this place because it's a beautiful building and you have free parking. I believe the city has to assist the people who own that in marketing it. And as a matter of fact, I pointed out the gentleman's name who was on the marquee in front of Eaton Park. And I did it in one of my videos. He called me up directly. He said, thanks for doing that. I need that. So those are the things that need to be done. You have to market this community, and you have to market our assets. People look at this city and says that it's negative. Everything's negative. Well, not if I get in there. I'm going to accentuate the positive things. What can we have, and how do you market this community?
And
So
then-
those are the things. And I'm gonna switch gears here for a second.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I got to switch gears here, and this is very, very upsetting to me. And I was informed this morning. I was down at Y for an early morning workout at 6 o'clock, and there was a couple coaches there. They have informed me that our Pop Warner football teams are not permitted to play in the Pop Warner League. Other county teams do not permit our football team to play in their league because of various incidents. I find that unbelievably racist. I find it discriminatory. That is so upsetting to me. I believe the city should be involved in that. There is no way that our kids, our 11, 12, 13-year-old kids, should not be able to play football if they so choose. They are not permitted in that league. I think it's an abomination. It's an abomination. I played Pop Warner football.
Right.
It was a great time in my life. And those kids absolutely should not be exempted from that experience.
Let's say I hit the lottery, how much is Newcastle in the hole?
32. If it's the lottery, how much do we in a hole?
He hits the lottery?
How much do we?
What's our deficit, I think he's asking?
How
much do we need? How much do we need to avoid receivership if we do not go into?
It's not, there is no amount limit. What it is you look at what your expenses are, what your anticipated expenses are, and what your revenues, and it's to be in a good physical condition, so you're not in the red all the time, but you have the prospects of not only to pay day-to-day income, but that you have the ability to do capital projects that you may need, whether it's your bridges, your roads,
Right.
your parks, whatever you want. There's a lot of things going. There is no magic number. But
Okay, so-
as we've talked about over the last few years, and the mayor and Stephanie know that, is you've done a lot of cutting. There is not, frankly, a lot of expenses to cut. There's here and there, but it's not going to translate to a lot. What you need to find out is there other sources of revenue?
So, what you have is, based on the last question, you have to drive revenue. Without a constant income of revenue, there is a problem. And not according to me, according to the state. Listen to what the question was that I posed and what was said.
city to do, that's what you look at, and you look at that 5-year window typically to see what's going to happen over that 5, not 10, not 20, because who knows what's going to happen in 10 or 20, but that's a more of a realistic snapshot in 5 years.
Hey, Joe, one more. I think the remedy to this, which I think you would agree to, is if the city would begin starting, the home rule passes, we keep our EIT, okay? The remedy to this then would be the city gets on this fiscal footing, generates revenue, and then as time being after 2022, as the city generates revenue, to incrementally lower those tax rates so that we have a competitive, let me finish, so that we have a competitive edge with the surrounding townships because their tax rate's lower than ours.
Right.
So that for us to have a competitive edge, we have to lower our tax rate to what theirs are. So the remedy to this is to start generating revenue for the city and bring businesses and then incrementally lower those areas of taxation.
One thing you and I can agree with, if you pass home rule and you pass the EIT tax, then you won't have to go to the court anyway because you'll have the control. But you're also right. EIT doesn't mean it has to go up all the time. At some point in time,
you have the ability to lower.
Decide that we put ourselves in a good financial state. We can decrease this EIT tax. It'll be up to you if you get to that point.
Yeah. No.
Okay, we go 20, we go 21, and now do we go 22 and January 1st, 23 we're out, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
January 1st, 23 we're out.
essentially, yes, you have to be out.
Okay, now.
Unless the legislature changes the Act 47 statute.
Unless
you
they
can be
do.
out at the exit,
Okay.
exit plans for 3 years.
January 1st, 23, we're out. Do you go, okay, how long can you go? Or is it incumbent on you guys to make a decision for January 1st, 2023? All things staying.
Would start that process well before December 2022 to evaluate whether or not you're at the position to leave or whether we think you need to, the state should consider a receivership.
Who makes the appeal on your call? What if there's not any agreement?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Okay, like the NFL, I don't think it was interference. We call upstairs. Who, if we don't agree with your evaluation, do we go to beyond that?
Well, the way the process works, the same as the exit plan process works. We come together, we draft a plan. We then publish that plan, we put it out for public comment. We then have a public meeting where you can give us comments. Then we, as the coordinators, make the decision whether or not to proceed with the plan. The state, if we say we think you can exit, the state then evaluates that, the secretary does, to decide whether or not the state agrees that you're in a position to exit, and if so, you exit. If we then recommend that you should be in a receiver, again, it's the state that decides.
So, in other words, you could say you believe in a receiver, but the state could overrule you.
Sure.
Or you could say you could go, and the state could overrule you.
The state could decide that, at our analysis, that you're ready to leave Act 47 is not correct. That you can, of course, you have to leave Act 47, but that you're able to go on your own without a receiver. Yes, the state could.
Okay. So it's not like, okay, it's 2023, you've went a year, now you need a receiver.
No, that decision would be made based upon where you stand in 2022.
22.
We have to make a budget by the end of the year, 2021,
Yes.
for 2022. If we're short, let's say we're short $2 million, we'd have to increase the income tax by $5 million. $5 million is $2 million. That's how you balance the budget. You've got to balance the budget. They'll know before then because we send our budget to them.
Okay.
There's nothing in the statute, the Act 47 statute, that gives a year past the 3 years to say, hey, let's see what happens. It's that call needs to be made during that last year
Year.
to one of those two pathways.
Okay.
And ultimately, the state will bless or not bless our proposal.
Okay, that's essentially what I was asking, is when the call had to be made.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Good luck, Mary. Thank you. Thank you.
I will just interject one. I'm Terry, I am with the state.
I'm trying to keep the light off over here.
I am with DCED. We are here to help you, whether or not you believe it or not. But I will tell you one thing, with a lot of your questions, if you go to DCED's website, on there, the one gentleman back here, my back's to you, and I apologize, but you were asking about Act 47 and all the questions and all the criteria. There are really good publications on our website that are a good Act 47 and Home Rule, and they're not written like you need Joel to help you. They're pretty standard, and they're not, so it would be some good reading material for you to help educate you, and all your questions would be answered with your criteria to come out, and your
What's the
criteria that
website?
stays in. It's if you just go to DCED you do Act 47 publication. That's all you'd have to Google. And DCED Home Rule publication. And it'll pop right up. I think the Home Rule is maybe 40 pages long. I'm not quite sure about, I'm not quite sure about the Act 47. It's pretty.
I've got the home rule piece here.
Yeah, so, but it is, and you can leaf through and it'll give you areas that you can get in there and read and take a look at it.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any more questions?
All right.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
for coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching NCTV 45.